In the darkened skies above the battlefield where heroes rise and fall, one figure stands apart, a goddess whose power decides the fate of warriors. She appears in many forms, a crow, a phantom woman, or even as a trio of fierce goddesses. This is Morrigan, the phantom queen of fate and prophecy. Her presence is the harbinger of death, a symbol of fate and power, and a reminder that in the world of the Tuatha De Danann, even the mightiest are not immune to the forces of destiny. Morrigan's ability to shape the outcome of battles, to decide who lives and who dies, has made her one of the most formidable deities in Irish mythology. But who is she really? What drives this goddess, and why does her shadow loom so large over the legends of ancient Ireland? In this video, we'll peel back the layers of Morrigan's many faces, explore her role within the Tuatha De Danann, and uncover the magic of her prophecies. We'll journey through her battles, her choices, and even the fateful encounter that would forever alter the course of Irish mythology. But before we begin, let's first understand why Morrigan matters so deeply to the myths of the Celts. Morrigan is not just a figure of war, she is a symbol of fate, sovereignty, and death, representing the inevitable intertwining of all three in the world of the Tuatha De Danann. Her influence stretches beyond simple prophecy. Morrigan does not only foresee death, she decrees it, determines it, and shapes the very course of battles. To understand why she holds such a significant place in Celtic mythology, we must first understand the complex roles she plays in the lives of the gods and heroes alike. In the age of the Tuatha De Danann, a race of gods who once ruled Ireland, Morrigan was not merely a warrior goddess. She was a force of nature, a goddess who stood at the crossroads of life and death. She was the one who shaped the fate of the mighty and the fallen, deciding the winners and the losers of Ireland's greatest conflicts. But it was not just her ability to control life and death that made her such a central figure. Morrigan also represented the sovereignty of the land, a symbol of the power that governs not only the battlefield, but the very fate of the realm. Her complex nature, manifested in her ability to be both nurturing and destructive, beautiful and terrifying, made her a figure of both reverence and fear. As the harbinger of doom and a protector of sovereignty, Morrigan was essential in maintaining the balance between chaos and order, war and peace. But how did she come to embody such immense power? To answer that, we need to look deeper into her origins and name, discover where Morrigan truly comes from, and what she represents in the broader context of Irish mythology. The name Morrigan carries a weight far beyond its simple meaning. Derived from the Old Irish term Morrigan, it translates to Great Queen or Phantom Queen, a title that reflects both her authority and her ethereal, otherworldly nature. But this is not just any title. It is a reflection of the deep and multifaceted role she plays in the cosmic order. Morrigan's name speaks to her dominion over death and war, but also her profound connection to the realms of fate and prophecy. She is, in essence, the queen of the unseen, the ruler of those who live and die by the sword, and the keeper of the balance between worlds. Morrigan's first appearances in the Irish myths are in the Ulster cycle, one of the major cycles of Irish mythology, and the mythological cycle, where she plays pivotal roles in shaping the outcomes of battles and the destinies of warriors. In these stories, she's not just an observer, but an active participant, often intervening in the affairs of men and gods alike. It is within these cycles that we find the full complexity of her being. The Morrigan is not simply a single goddess, but a composite of different forms. She is a trinity of goddesses, each representing different aspects of her power. And yet, despite her multiple faces, she remains one singular force of nature, a goddess who can be as destructive as she is nurturing, as terrifying as she is regal. Her role in these ancient myths is not just to foresee death, but to act as the weaver of fate itself. She can shift the tides of war, stir the winds of conflict, and guide the hands of those destined for greatness or destruction. To understand Morrigan is to understand the deep, intertwined nature of life and death, fate and free will, and how even the greatest heroes are at the mercy of the forces she governs. But Morrigan's power extends far beyond mere battlefields. Her role within the Tuatha De Danann, the divine race of gods and goddesses, places her at the very heart of the Celtic pantheon. How does she fit into this ancient society, and what is her true relationship with the other gods? Let's explore the realm of the Tuatha De Danann and uncover Morrigan's place within it. To understand Morrigan's true power, we must first look at the Tuatha De Danann, the pantheon of gods and goddesses who ruled over ancient Ireland. The Tuatha were not simply deities, they were forces of nature, representing the various aspects of the world itself: war, wisdom, light, fertility, and sovereignty. In this divine order, Morrigan occupies a central and irreplaceable role, one that bridges the realms of life and death. Morrigan's relationship with the Tuatha De Danann is not one of a mere goddess among many. She's a cornerstone of their power and influence. As a goddess of war, she's closely tied to the great conflicts that shape the fate of both the gods and humans. Yet, her power extends far beyond that. Morrigan is also a sovereignty goddess, a figure that embodies the land itself. In Celtic tradition, sovereignty is not merely a political idea, but a divine force tied to the land and its ruler. The ruler of the land must have the blessing of the sovereignty goddess to hold power, and Morrigan, as a guardian of this principle, ensures that this balance is maintained. Within the divine hierarchy, Morrigan is often seen in close association with other prominent figures like Dagda, the All-Father of the Tuatha, Lugh, the shining god of light and skill, and Nuada, the king of the Tuatha De Danann. While the relationships between these gods are complex, sometimes friendly, sometimes contentious, Morrigan's connection to them is one of both respect and caution. She is not easily swayed, and her intervention in mortal affairs often carries weight far beyond her immediate actions. But Morrigan's role in the Tuatha De Danann is not just as a goddess of war and sovereignty. She also represents a more primal aspect of the divine, death. As the guardian of fate and the chooser of who lives and who dies, Morrigan's influence is as vital as it is unsettling. Her presence on the battlefield signals not only death, but the inevitable fulfillment of fate. She is the bringer of both victory and destruction, often guiding the hands of those she deems worthy or worthy of death. In the chaotic world of the Tuatha, where gods battle for control and heroes rise to face impossible odds, Morrigan is the ever-present force that ensures balance is maintained. Without her, the cycle of life and death would be incomplete, and the delicate equilibrium between the gods, humans, and nature would collapse. But Morrigan's true power lies not only in her role as a goddess of war or sovereignty. Her most terrifying and fascinating aspect is her ability to foresee and shape the future, to prophesy the fate of kings and warriors. Let's now explore the three faces of Morrigan, and how each one reveals a different facet of her immense power. Morrigan is not a single entity, but rather a triad, a composite of three distinct yet interconnected goddesses. These three faces, Badb, Macha, and Nemain, represent the multifaceted nature of her power, and each one serves a unique purpose in her overarching role as the phantom queen of fate and prophecy. Badb, the first of her faces, is perhaps the most terrifying. She is the crow, the omen of death that appears over battlefields, marking the doom of those who are about to fall. In battle, her presence is felt as the shriek of a crow in the sky, a foreboding sign that the end is near. Badb is the one who sows fear in the hearts of warriors, who can cause the tides of war to shift with her cries. Her influence is not subtle, she's loud, forceful, and relentless, her core echoing the inevitable fall of those who face her wrath. But her power is not only about destruction, she's also a goddess of prophecy, bringing death not as a random force, but as the fulfillment of fate. To face Badb is to face one's destiny, for she ensures that death comes to those whose time has come. The second face, Macha, brings with it a different kind of power. Whereas Badb embodies the chaotic and uncontrollable force of death, Macha represents sovereignty, fury, and battle rage. She is the embodiment of the land itself, and in her warrior aspect she is the goddess of strength, power, and victory in battle. Macha's presence is the fire that drives armies to charge, the fury that overwhelms the hearts of warriors and makes them relentless in their pursuit of conquest. Yet Macha's connection to sovereignty is profound. She is the figure who bestows the right to rule, and only those worthy of the land's favour can claim her power. Like the land, Macha is both nurturing and destructive, embodying the harshness of nature as much as its life-giving force. Finally, Nemain represents the pure chaos of war, where Badb is the harbinger of death and Macha is the force of battle. Nemain is the goddess of panic, confusion, and fear that descend in the wake of bloodshed. She embodies the unpredictable chaos that war brings, the terror that spreads when soldiers are thrown into battle without hope or direction. Nemain is the storm that overtakes the mind, making men act irrationally and fearfully, losing themselves to the confusion of the fight. In battle, her power is subtle but immense. She works silently, sowing disarray among those who fight, ensuring that war is never as straightforward as it seems. Her presence is felt in the madness of battle, where strategy and reason fall away, leaving only the primal instinct to survive. Each of these faces serves a critical role in Morrigan's power. Together, they embody the full spectrum of what it means to be the Phantom Queen, the chooser of death, the force of sovereignty, and the bringer of chaos. These faces are not merely separate deities, they are interconnected expressions of a single, all-encompassing power. They reflect Morrigan's ability to intervene in battle and fate, to shape the world through war, death, and destiny. But how does Morrigan use these faces to influence the world around her? To answer that, we must explore the deeper symbolism of Morrigan's role as a Phantom Queen, the embodiment of the thin veil between life and death, between the known and the unknown. Morrigan is not simply a goddess of war, nor is she only a figure of death. She's the embodiment of the liminal, existing between worlds, life and death, order and chaos, the mortal realm and the other world. This quality makes her the Phantom Queen, a figure who transcends the boundaries of what is visible and what is hidden, of what is living and what is dead. She represents the veil between these two realms, a reminder that life is fragile and death is ever present, waiting just beyond the horizon. Her nature as the Phantom Queen is symbolized in her shifting forms. Badb as the crow, Macha as the fierce warrior, and Nemain as the harbinger of chaos. Each of these faces represents a different aspect of her connection to death and prophecy. The crow is a symbol of death and omen, the woman of battle is a symbol of sovereignty, and the figure of Nemain represents the unpredictable, the chaos that accompanies the end of life. But all these forms are united in one powerful truth. Morrigan is the bridge between the worlds. In this role, she often appears as a shadowy figure, a phantom slipping between the veils of the physical world and the other world. In many myths, her appearances are marked by strange phenomena, shadows crossing the land, a sudden, unexplainable chill, or the sound of a crow's cry echoing through the battlefield. These omens are a manifestation of her power, warning the living of what is to come, marking the transition from one state to another. Morrigan, in her essence, is both the herald of death and its keeper, able to step between the realms as if they were one. Her appearance often marks the beginning of a great battle or the approach of a major shift in the world's fate. She does not just bring death as a passive observer, but actively chooses who will live and who will die. Her power to intervene in the lives of heroes and gods is what makes her so terrifying, and so vital to the cosmic order. The symbolism of the veil, a recurring theme in her mythos, speaks to her connection to the unknown. Just as the veil in Celtic tradition represents the boundary between the physical world and the realm of spirits, Morrigan stands as a guide between these two worlds. She allows the souls of warriors to pass through to the other world, and it is through her presence that fate is sealed. This is why Morrigan is often depicted as a shadowy figure, half seen, slipping in and out of view, a reminder that fate is often as uncertain as it is inevitable. To see Morrigan is to confront the unseen forces that shape the world. Her appearance is a reminder that we are all subject to the will of fate, that we cannot escape death, and that the journey between life and death is one that we all must undertake. But Morrigan's role does not stop at simply being a harbinger of death, or the guardian of the veil. Her true power lies in her ability to choose death, and it is here that we begin to understand how she influences the world around her. How does Morrigan select who dies and who lives? How does she intervene in battles? And what is the nature of her prophecies? To understand this, we must look deeper into how Morrigan shapes the future. Morrigan's role as a death goddess is not merely passive. Unlike many figures in mythology who foretell death, Morrigan actively chooses it. Her power extends far beyond the ability to predict fate. She is the one who determines when it is time for a soul to leave the mortal realm. This ability to influence life and death is a manifestation of her dominion over the threads of fate, which she weaves and unravels at will. Her presence on the battlefield is a signal of the decisions to be made, the lives that will be claimed, and the destinies that will be fulfilled. It is important to understand that Morrigan does not simply predict death, she accelerates it, making it a reality. Her omens, the cries of the crow, the strange occurrences that precede her arrival, are not just warnings but active markers that shape the course of events. They are part of her agency, a force that pushes mortals toward their fate. In many of the myths, we see Morrigan intervening directly in the lives of warriors, choosing to influence the outcome of their battles. Her appearance often precedes a great tragedy or the fall of a hero. For example, when Cú Chulainn, the great warrior of the Ulster cycle, faces his fate, it is Morrigan who appears to him, not as an ally, but as an agent of his eventual death. She does not simply foresee his end, she ensures it, tempting him with her prophecies and causing his downfall. Morrigan, through her interventions, accelerates the destinies that have been set in motion, fulfilling the inevitable with her hand. There is a distinction in the nature of Morrigan's prophecies. Some are passive warnings, offering insight into the fate that awaits, while others are active decrees, where she takes it upon herself to make the prophecy a reality. In these moments, Morrigan is not merely a spectator, she becomes the force of fate itself, a chooser of death who directly impacts the outcome of battles and the lives of those involved. But Morrigan's power is not limited to the battlefield. Her influence extends to the broader fabric of the world, guiding the fates of not just warriors but kings, gods, and the very land itself. She is the one who decides which of her chosen will live to see another day, and which will fall in the next battle. Her role is not only to foresee death, but to ensure that it comes at the right time, to those who are marked by fate. Through her power, Morrigan ties the mortal world to the other world, the realm where the souls of the dead reside. She acts as a guide, a guardian of the transition between life and death. Her role as a death goddess is not one of malice, but one of necessity, maintaining the delicate balance between the living and the dead, ensuring that fate's course is never diverted. As we consider how Morrigan shapes death and destiny, we come to understand the profound significance of her power. She is the embodiment of fate's will, an active force in determining the course of lives and the outcomes of battles. But Morrigan's influence does not end with her prophecies. To see the true extent of her power, we must look to the famous cases in which her prophecies and interventions change the course of history. Morrigan's power to shape fate is not a theoretical concept. It is a force that plays out in the lives of the heroes and kings of ancient Ireland. Her prophecies are far more than mere words. They are the decrees of destiny carried out by her direct intervention. Throughout the Irish myths, Morrigan's presence marks pivotal moments in history, moments when the fate of a warrior or a kingdom is sealed by her will. One of the most famous and telling examples of Morrigan's power lies in her relationship with Cú Chulainn, the hero of the Ulster cycle. When Cú Chulainn, the greatest of warriors, faces an impending battle, it is Morrigan who approaches him, not as an ally, but as a tempter of fate. She offers him her assistance in exchange for a promise, but when Cú Chulainn refuses, she becomes an active participant in his demise. Her appearances are no longer passive warnings but active interventions, pushing him towards his ultimate fate. The most notable encounter between them occurs before Cú Chulainn's final battle. Morrigan, in one of her many forms, attempts to curse him, foretelling that he would fall in this battle and sowing the seeds of doubt and fear in his mind. Despite Cú Chulainn's defiance, Morrigan's prophecy proves true, and he meets his end in a tragic, inevitable way. This is not simply the fulfillment of a preordained fate, it is a direct result of Morrigan's involvement, a goddess who shapes the hero's downfall with her powerful words and actions. Her prophecy to Cú Chulainn serves as a lesson about fate, that no matter how powerful, no matter how heroic, even the greatest among men cannot escape the will of the gods. Morrigan's prophecy is not a prediction, it is the shaping of a destiny, the turning of a wheel that cannot be stopped. This story highlights Morrigan's unique ability to control fate's course, to intervene in the lives of the powerful and the mortal, ensuring that her influence is always felt. But Morrigan's reach extends beyond Cú Chulainn. Her prophecies and interventions affect entire armies, kings, and even the course of wars. In another instance, Morrigan appears before a great battle, foretelling the outcome and choosing which side will fall. She does not merely warn of defeat, she decides it, ensuring that her prophecy comes to fruition. This is the true essence of her power. She is not just a seer of the future, but a shaper of it, a force that directly impacts the lives of those she touches. Morrigan's influence is so vast that it does not just alter the fate of individual warriors, it shapes the destiny of nations. Her role as the Phantom Queen is more than a symbolic one. She is the active force that weaves the fabric of fate, deciding which threads will break and which will continue. Whether through prophecy or direct intervention, Morrigan ensures that the course of history remains true to the will of the gods. Now, as we consider her role in the unfolding of history, we must look at one of the most defining moments for both the gods and mortals, the Battle of Mag Tuired, where Morrigan's power reaches its fullest expression. Let's dive deeper into this iconic event and explore how her intervention shapes the outcome of this legendary conflict. The Battle of Mag Tuired is not just a confrontation between gods, it is the clash of the cosmic forces that shape the world of the Tuatha De Danann. This pivotal battle, fought between the Tuatha De Danann and their ancient enemies, the Fomorians, is a struggle for survival, power, and sovereignty. But it is also a battle where Morrigan's presence is felt like a storm, her power weaving through the events that unfold. She does not merely observe this war, she manipulates its course, influencing both the outcome of the battle and the fate of its warriors. As the battle rages on, Morrigan's omniscient gaze falls upon the Tuatha De Danann. She knows that the outcome is not yet sealed, and that the fate of the gods depends on the actions of both sides. She appears in multiple forms, shifting between her three faces, Badb, Macha, and Nemain, each one playing a crucial role in the unfolding events. In her guise as Badb the Crow, she circles above the battlefield, signalling the death that is about to come. The warriors, already caught in the frenzy of battle, feel the weight of their doom as Morrigan's ominous cry fills the air. In another form, Macha, the goddess of sovereignty, manifests herself as a powerful figure, her fury driving the Tuatha De Danann to greater strength. She is not simply a goddess of war, but a force of leadership, a reminder that victory belongs only to those who are blessed by sovereignty. Her presence ignites the warriors, pushing them to fight with unparalleled might. With Macha's guidance, the Tuatha De Danann hold their ground, their morale bolstered by her divine energy. Yet, it is Nemain, the goddess of panic and chaos, who truly marks the battlefield with her influence. As the battle grows more intense, Nemain works her magic, sending waves of fear through the ranks of the Fomorians. The Fomorians, already known for their chaotic nature, are consumed by the terror of the unknown, their strategies faltering as the very nature of war is turned upside down. Morrigan, in her form as Nemain, ensures that the Fomorians are not only defeated but broken mentally and emotionally, making their downfall inevitable. Morrigan's actions during the Battle of Mag Tuired are not limited to her direct interventions. She also weaves fate with each decision she makes. Through her prophetic power, she ensures that the Tuatha De Danann are victorious, but her victory is not without sacrifice. As is typical with her influence, death is not a simple matter of survival or loss, it is a sacred, inevitable outcome. Her power is not one of mercy, it is one of fate's unyielding hand, ensuring that the right balance is maintained between life and death, between the mortal and the divine. The Battle of Mag Tuired cements Morrigan's place as the Phantom Queen, a goddess who shapes the very destinies of the gods and whose power is felt across the cosmos. Her influence is not just about victory on the battlefield, but about the larger patterns of fate that define the world. She's not merely a passive observer in the story of the Tuatha De Danann. She's the architect of their triumphs and their losses, guiding their fates with the power of prophecy and death itself. But even in this victory, Morrigan's role is far from finished. Her interactions with Dagda, the All-Father of the Tuatha De Danann, further demonstrate her critical influence. How does this relationship further illuminate the depth of her power and significance in the divine hierarchy? Let us turn now to the fateful encounter between Morrigan and Dagda, which would forever change the landscape of the Tuatha De Danann. Morrigan's relationship with Dagda, the All-Father of the Tuatha De Danann, is one of the most intriguing and complex in Irish mythology. Dagda is often depicted as the father figure, the god of abundance, fertility, and wisdom, wielding immense power and influence over both the divine and mortal realms. Yet, when Morrigan crosses his path, their interaction is not simply one of allies. It is a moment of profound political and ritual significance that underscores the intricate dynamics of the Tuatha De Danann. The story begins with an encounter between the two deities during a time when the Tuatha De Danann face a series of struggles and challenges that threaten their sovereignty. Dagda, as the leader of the gods, is tasked with preserving the well-being of his people, but it is Morrigan who plays the crucial role in determining whether he will succeed or fail in his mission. In this pivotal moment, Morrigan appears before Dagda, not as a mere companion or ally, but as a power broker. Her presence is both commanding and enigmatic. She offers to help Dagda in his endeavours, but there is a catch. As is typical with Morrigan, nothing comes without a price. She demands that Dagda honour her in a way that is both symbolic and practical, acknowledging her power and importance within the divine hierarchy. This is not just a request, it is a ritual exchange, a demonstration of the power dynamics at play between the gods. Dagda, understanding the immense power that Morrigan holds, agrees to her terms. This moment reflects more than just a political alliance. It is a recognition of sovereignty and the importance of maintaining balance between the divine forces. In this exchange, Morrigan asserts her control over fate, reminding Dagda that no god, no matter how mighty, can ever truly act alone without the support of others. Even the All-Father must bend to her will if he is to maintain his reign. But the relationship between Morrigan and Dagda also highlights another layer of meaning, the complex symbolism of sexual sovereignty. In some interpretations, their encounter is seen as more than a mere alliance. The encounter carries a ritualistic undertone, representing a sacred union between fertility and death, sovereignty and fate, While not overtly sexual in nature, their meeting speaks to the broader understanding of sacred marriages in ancient mythologies, where power is exchanged and solidified through ritual acts that bind two forces together. This meeting between Morrigan and Dagda is not just a passing encounter, it marks a critical turning point for the Tuatha De Danann. By uniting in this ritualistic way, they reinforce the idea that the gods' power is interdependent, that even those who appear to hold ultimate power must acknowledge the strength of other divine beings. It is a moment that reinforces Morrigan's central role within the divine order, a role that is not just based on her physical strength or her ability to shape fate, but also her mastery of the ritual and symbolic forces that govern the cosmos. In the aftermath of this encounter, Morrigan's power is more firmly established within the pantheon of the Tuatha De Danann. She's not simply a goddess of war or death. She is a sovereign power, a force that ensures the balance of the divine, and whose influence can shift the course of history itself. But what does this relationship with Dagda reveal about Morrigan's lasting impact on the Tuatha? And how does her influence continue to resonate across the centuries? Let us now turn our attention to Morrigan's lasting legacy and how her archetype has endured into the modern world. The legacy of Morrigan extends far beyond the ancient myths and the battles of the Tuatha De Danann. As one of the most powerful and complex figures in Irish mythology, her influence reverberates through the ages, shaping not only the culture of her time but also leaving an indelible mark on modern society. In literature, film, television, and even video games, Morrigan continues to inspire and captivate audiences, her archetype reimagined in new and powerful ways. Her role as a goddess of fate, sovereignty, and death remains relevant today, especially in works that explore themes of power and destiny. Modern adaptations of Morrigan often emphasize her duality, both nurturing and destructive, and her ability to shape the future. She's frequently depicted as a female force of nature, a powerful figure who commands respect and fear, much as she did in the ancient myths. Whether through her representation as a fierce warrior queen or a dark, foreboding harbinger of death, Morrigan remains a symbol of female strength and empowerment in a world that often seeks to silence or diminish such power. In contemporary literature, Morrigan's character is often reimagined in novels, where she is a central figure in fantasy worlds that explore the supernatural. Writers draw from her archetype to create characters who embody both death and rebirth, themes that are as relevant today as they were in the ancient myths. In some stories, she's portrayed as a complex anti-heroine, challenging conventional ideas of good and evil, much as she did in the ancient texts. Her influence can be seen in the characters who challenge fate, defy expectations, and wield immense power over life and death. Video games have also embraced Morrigan's enduring power. In games like Dragon Age, she is reimagined as a central figure, a sorceress with her own complex motivations and goals, who remains as unpredictable and enigmatic as the goddess of myth. Here, Morrigan's influence is reinterpreted to fit the narratives of modern fantasy, where choice and destiny are often central themes. Through these reimaginings, she continues to embody the same traits that made her so compelling in ancient Ireland: her power to choose death, to shape fate, and to stand as a sovereign ruler of her own destiny. Beyond the realm of fiction, Morrigan's presence is still felt in modern spirituality and pagan practices, where she is venerated as a goddess of transformation and empowerment. Many see her as a figure who represents the balance of life and death, a reminder of the cycles of nature and the importance of embracing both our strength and our vulnerability. Her image is often used in rituals focused on personal transformation, empowerment, and honouring the ancestors. Yet, perhaps the most lasting and profound legacy of Morrigan is the archetype she represents, the figure who commands respect through strength and sovereignty, the one who determines who lives and who dies, the one who stands between life and death, guarding the veil that separates them. Morrigan's archetype speaks to a deeper understanding of power, one that is rooted not just in physical might, but in the ability to shape fate and to challenge the natural order. She's a figure who transcends time, whose legacy is built on a foundation of uncompromising strength, wisdom, and fearlessness. Her legacy, as both a goddess of ancient Ireland and a modern cultural icon, continues to inspire those who seek to embrace their own power, confront their fate, and wield the forces of transformation in their own lives. Morrigan's voice echoes in the hearts of those who understand that death is not the end, but a transformation, a step in the never-ending cycle that governs the universe. In her name, we find the courage to face our own challenges and to embrace the inevitable with grace and strength. Now that we've explored the depths of Morrigan's legacy, we are reminded of the importance of her continued presence in our collective imagination. But before we conclude, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned today. As we come to the end of our journey through the mythic world of Morrigan, we are reminded of just how much her influence shaped not only the lives of the gods, but also the fabric of fate itself. We have uncovered the three faces of Morrigan, Badb, Macha, and Nemain, each representing a vital aspect of her power. We have explored her role as a death goddess, her intervention in battles, and how her prophecies shape the very course of history. Her relationship with Dagda highlighted her deep ritualistic importance within the Tuatha De Danann, reminding us that even the greatest gods must recognise her sovereignty. We have also seen how Morrigan's legacy lives on today, through her depiction in modern media, spirituality and mythology, where she continues to inspire and empower. From literature to video games, and from pagan rituals to personal transformations, Morrigan remains a timeless symbol of strength, death, and sovereignty, a goddess whose power transcends both time and space. But as we reflect on all that we've learned, we must ask ourselves, what does Morrigan's story teach us about the power we hold over our own fates? How can we embrace the lessons of her many faces, and how might we wield the same strength she embodies in our own lives? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of Irish mythology and want to explore more, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next chapter in our series. Up next, we'll delve into Lugh, the Shining One, who defied prophecy and changed the fate of his people forever. Who was Lugh, and how did he become the champion of the Tuatha De Danann? Tune in to discover the brilliance and power of one of the most important gods of the Celtic pantheon. Thank you for watching, and remember, Morrigan's legacy lives on in all of us, as we face our own battles, embrace the cycles of life and death, and carve our own destinies.